The entire foundation of this audiobook rests on one powerful sentence. Small disciplines repeated daily create massive change, not by chance, but by choice. This isn't just a motivational phrase. It's a fundamental truth about how human transformation actually works. If you're exhausted from starting strong and losing steam, if you've set ambitious goals only to watch them fade into forgotten intentions, this represents the paradigm shift you need. Why big change doesn't begin with intensity. Most people approach self-improvement backwards. They believe transformation requires dramatic action, complete overhauls, or heroic willpower. The audiobook challenges this assumption directly. Big life change never begins with intensity. It begins with small daily actions that feel so simple most people ignore them. This counterintuitive truth explains why New Year's resolutions fail, why gym memberships go unused after February, and why ambitious plans collapse under their own weight. The real power source. The power doesn't lie in grand gestures or momentary inspiration. It lies in showing up every single day and doing what matters without skipping, without waiting to feel ready, without negotiating. This isn't about productivity hacks or motivational hype. It's about establishing real habits that generate real results through discipline rather than pressure. Chapter 1. Start tiny. Actions repeated every single day. The universal question, why doesn't life change? People constantly ask why their lives remain stagnant despite wanting change. They experience a frustrating cycle, starting strong, stopping early, feeling disappointed with themselves, and confusion about what's missing. After years of studying human behavior and working with countless individuals, one clear truth emerges. Big change does not come from big dramatic moves. Big change comes from small actions done every day. The fundamental principle of human behavior. Human behavior is shaped fundamentally by what we repeat. This isn't psychological theory, it's observable reality. The mind learns through repetition. The body responds to repetition. Confidence grows through repetition. Your entire future is being constructed by what you do again and again, even when no one is watching, even when results aren't visible. Why people underestimate small actions. Most people dramatically underestimate the power of small actions because they crave fast results. They want proof before commitment. They want to see evidence immediately. But this reverses the actual process of growth. Discipline comes before results, not after. Growth precedes reward, not the other way around. The smallest action done daily carries exponentially more power than a large action done once. Consider these examples. Skipping a short walk feels harmless in the moment. Reading one page feels pointless compared to finishing a book. Saving a small amount feels too slow when you want financial freedom. But these actions aren't about today's immediate impact. They're about who you are becoming through the accumulation of choices. The identity message. Every small action sends a message to your subconscious mind. That message declares, I am the kind of person who shows up over time. This message, repeated consistently, becomes belief. Belief shapes behavior. Behavior shapes life. This is the chain reaction that creates lasting transformation. Why most people struggle? The perfection trap. Most people struggle not because they lack knowledge or capability, but because they aim too high at the start. They set rules they cannot possibly keep. They demand perfection from themselves and then quit when they inevitably fail. This creates a destructive emotional sequence. Unrealistic standards arrow. Failure to meet them arrow. Guilt about failing arrow. Avoidance to escape guilt. Distance from growth. The smarter approach, lower the starting point. The intelligent approach is counterintuitive. Lower the starting point dramatically. Choose actions so small that resistance has no place to hide. When the action feels too easy to fail, you begin winning daily. Winning daily builds self-respect. Self-respect builds momentum. This creates an upward spiral instead of a downward one. Consistency versus intensity. Consistency is not about intensity. It's about reliability. Doing something small every day trains the brain to trust you as someone who follows through. When you break promises to yourself, the mind remembers and trust erodes. When you keep promises, even small ones, the mind remembers this too and trust compounds. The source of real confidence. Confidence doesn't originate from loud declarations or impressive plans. It comes from quiet, consistent follow through. Tiny actions repeated daily rebuild the trust between you and yourself, trust that has often been damaged by years of broken commitments and abandoned goals. How discipline is actually built. Discipline does not arrive suddenly like a lightning bolt of motivation. It's built slowly, deliberately, through action. It grows when you act, even when your mood is low, even when you don't feel like it. Good habits depend more on environment and choice architecture than on sheer willpower, which means you need to structure your life to make small actions inevitable rather than optional. The difference between feelings and habits. Feelings change frequently, sometimes multiple times within a single day. Habits, however, remain constant when feelings move on. Relying on motivation is fundamentally risky because motivation depends on emotion, which is unstable. Discipline depends on decision, which can be stable. A daily tiny action removes the need for motivation entirely. You act because it reflects who you are, not because you feel inspired in that particular moment. How small actions create structure. Small actions create structure in an inherently chaotic world. Life is busy and constantly pulls attention in countless directions. A simple daily action becomes an anchor point. It gives the day a sense of order and purpose. That sense of order reduces stress hormones. When stress lowers, clarity improves. With clarity, decision-making improves. Improvement begins with calm, consistent repetition. The misconception about change. People think change requires force, dramatic willpower, and intense effort. It does not. Change requires patience and strategic thinking. Habits require problem solving and strategy. Forming lasting habits is more like developing expertise. It involves setting goals, consciously creating strategies, and solving daily challenges. The mind naturally resists sudden dramatic shifts because they trigger fear and uncertainty. The mind accepts gradual change because it feels safe. A tiny action feels safe to the nervous system. It doesn't trigger fear responses. When fear stays quiet, learning becomes possible and growth becomes steady. The origin story of great results. Every great result you admire in others began with something small, repeated long enough for it to matter. Skills developed through daily practice, not weekend workshops. Health improves through daily care, not annual health kicks. Relationships grow through daily attention, not grand romantic gestures. Finances strengthen through daily choices, not lottery tickets. These aren't secrets. They're often ignored truths that people search past while looking for shortcuts. How daily repetition creates identity. Daily repetition creates identity, and identity drives behavior in ways that goals never can. When you read daily, you become a reader, not someone trying to read more. When you move daily, you become someone who cares for the body, not someone attempting to get fit. When you plan daily, you become organized, not someone working on organization. Identity change is extraordinarily powerful because it lasts. Goals come and go with circumstances and motivation. Identity stays because it's about who you are, not what you're trying to achieve. The critical distinction: missing versus quitting. Missing one day is not failure. Life happens. Perfection is impossible. However, quitting is failure. The real danger isn't slipping once, it's stopping entirely. Small actions allow for quick recovery. You don't need to restart elaborate plans or rebuild momentum from zero. You simply return to the small action the next day. This keeps momentum alive even through imperfection. How momentum builds invisibly. Momentum builds quietly, almost invisibly. Your environment begins responding to repeated behavior. People start trusting your consistency. Opportunities begin coming to those who demonstrate reliability over time. Respect grows when actions consistently match words. Small actions repeated daily create a reputation, and reputation opens doors that effort alone cannot. The confidence paradox. Many people wait for confidence before taking action. This is backwards. Confidence comes after action, not before it. Confidence must be earned through demonstrated capability. Tiny actions allow confidence to grow without overwhelming pressure. Each completed action becomes evidence. Evidence strengthens belief, belief fuels further action. This creates a virtuous cycle. Brain plasticity and neural pathways. The brain is physically shaped by what it practices. Repetition literally forms neural pathways, actual physical structures in your brain. Those pathways make actions progressively easier over time. What feels difficult today becomes natural months later. Ease comes from repetition, not from innate talent. People begin to notice those who show up continuously. This reliability fosters a sense of trust and respect, allowing the individual to become a recognized authority in their field. How daily discipline simplifies life. Daily discipline dramatically simplifies life. Decisions become fewer, mental energy is conserved. When actions are planned and automatically repeated, there's less internal debate. Internal debate drains enormous amounts of energy. Simplicity preserves that energy. Preserved energy improves focus on tasks that actually matter. The patience training ground. Small actions teach patience, which is absolutely required for meaningful change. Impatience inevitably leads to quitting. When you commit to tiny actions, you accept the natural pace of growth. This acceptance reduces frustration. Reduced frustration improves persistence and follow-through. Where success is actually built. Success is not built in moments of excitement or inspiration. It's built in ordinary, unremarkable days. Ordinary days make up the vast majority of life. Learning to respect ordinary days changes everything about your trajectory. Tiny daily actions give ordinary days purpose and direction. Beyond perfection. Personal growth doesn't demand perfection. It demands participation. Show up daily, even when the effort feels small, especially when it feels small. Small effort repeated consistently beats large effort that's avoided or postponed. This is mathematical truth. 1% improvement daily compounds to 37 times improvement in a year, while 100% effort once leads nowhere. How the future is shaped. The future is shaped quietly, without announcement. No applause comes when habits are being formed. No recognition arrives when discipline is being built, but results appear later. They appear suddenly to outsiders who are confused about your seemingly overnight progress. But progress is never sudden to the person who practiced daily. They know exactly how it was built. Your daily vote. Your daily actions vote for the life you want. Each action either supports or weakens that future. Tiny actions cast powerful votes when repeated consistently. Over time, the majority of votes wins. That's how you create the life you want, one vote at a time. Starting where you are. Start where you currently are. Use what you currently have. Choose actions that fit your actual current life, not your imagined ideal life. Growth should support life, not fight against it or require complete life reorganization. Sustainable actions last. Unsustainable actions disappear regardless of how impressive they seem. Building self-control. The greatest strength you can build is self-control, the ability to choose long-term benefit over short-term comfort. Self-control grows through practice, and practice happens daily. Tiny actions are the training ground where self-control is developed. Each day, you practice choosing what benefits your future self over what feels good right now. Comfort is constantly tempting. Growth always requires some level of effort. Tiny effort repeated keeps growth alive without overwhelming your system. The integration. This is how discipline becomes part of who you are rather than something you must force. It's integrated into identity rather than imposed through willpower. Respecting the power of today. Respect the power of today. Today is where habits actually live and are practiced. Yesterday is finished and unchangeable. Tomorrow is built entirely by what you do today. Daily actions are the bridge connecting today to tomorrow. The perfect plan trap. Do not wait for a perfect plan. Perfection is procrastination in disguise. Begin with a small action that moves life forward in any meaningful direction. Repeat it daily. Adjust as needed based on results. Progress favors action over planning every single time. Heavy days require light actions. When days feel emotionally or physically heavy, keep actions light but maintain consistency. Consistency matters most during hard times, not easy ones. Hard times reveal the true strength of your habits. Habits carry you through when motivation fails. How growth actually happens. Growth is not loud or dramatic. Growth is quiet and incremental. It happens when you honor small promises to yourself. Over time, those promises build a life that feels stable, strong, and meaningful. Why this pattern works. Tiny actions repeated daily create massive change because they work with human nature, not against it. They respect how the mind actually functions. They respect the role of emotion in behavior. They respect the reality of life's demands and constraints. The solution to feeling stuck. If life feels stuck or stagnant, the solution is not more pressure or harder pushing. The solution is repetition of small positive actions. Start tiny. Repeat daily without exception. Trust the process even when you can't see results. Change will follow inevitably. It's a matter of when, not if. Chapter 2. Practice daily discipline before chasing big goals. The fundamental problem with goal setting. Many people enthusiastically set big goals and then feel confused when nothing actually moves. They talk about changing their career, transforming their health, improving their finances, or becoming a better person. The goal sounds exciting and provides a short burst of energy, but after a few days, the excitement predictably fades and nothing changes. This isn't because the goal is wrong or inadequate. It's because discipline was never built first as a foundation. The critical equation. Goals without discipline are merely wishes. Discipline is what turns wishes into tangible results. This is the equation most people get wrong, spending years chasing outcomes while ignoring the behavior patterns required to achieve them. Why discipline isn't glamorous. Daily discipline is not glamorous or impressive to others. It doesn't create excitement or drama. It doesn't make for good social media content. That's exactly why it works so powerfully. Discipline trains you to act without needing excitement, approval, or external motivation. Life does not reward excitement, which is temporary. Life rewards reliability, which is sustainable. Building self-reliance. When you practice discipline daily, you become reliable to yourself. That internal reliability becomes your greatest source of strength. You stop doubting your ability to follow through. You trust yourself more. That self-trust generates calm. Calm generates stability. And stability is remarkably rare in a world filled with constant chaos and distraction. The weight problem. Big goals are heavy. They demand a version of you that may not exist yet. Daily discipline creates that version slowly, preparing you for the weight of the goal. It trains your behavior before you demand big outcomes from yourself. Most people reverse this order. They chase big results first and then try to force discipline later when they're already overwhelmed. That approach inevitably leads to frustration and self-doubt. What discipline actually is. Discipline is not punishment or restriction. Discipline is crucial as the starting point for the deep life stack. It is structure. Structure reduces chaos. Chaos drains energy and motivation. When life feels scattered and disorganized, progress slows dramatically or stops entirely. Daily discipline brings order. It gives direction to your effort. Direction turns diffuse effort into focused progress. How the mind prefers comfort. The human mind naturally prefers comfort because comfort meant safety in our evolutionary past. Comfort means avoiding effort and potential danger. Discipline gently interrupts that automatic pattern. It introduces small, controlled effort daily. Over time, the mind adapts to this new normal. Effort begins feeling less threatening. Resistance naturally weakens. This is how discipline reshapes behavior without requiring brute force, willpower, or constant internal battles. The readiness myth. People often believe they need to feel ready before taking action. This is completely backwards. Readiness is built through action, not before it. Daily discipline creates readiness. It sharpens focus. It strengthens will. It builds tolerance for discomfort and effort. Chasing goals without readiness creates emotional exhaustion and burnout. Discipline as a skill. Discipline is a skill, not a personality trait you either have or don't have. Like any skill, it improves through deliberate practice. Daily practice develops control over your choices. Control over choices creates freedom. Real freedom is not doing whatever you want whenever you want. Real freedom is the ability to do what benefits you even when you do not feel like doing it. The navigation system. Goals point to a destination. They show you where you want to go. Discipline determines whether you actually arrive. Without discipline, goals remain ideas floating in your mind. Ideas alone do not change lives. Behavior changes lives. Discipline shapes behavior into patterns that generate results. Teaching delayed reward. Daily discipline teaches delayed reward, which is perhaps its most valuable lesson. It trains you to act without immediate payoff, to invest today for returns that come later. This skill is rare and extraordinarily valuable in a culture of instant gratification. Most people quit because they don't see quick results. Discipline allows you to continue steadily when results are not yet visible. That ability separates those who grow from those who stay stuck indefinitely. Removing pressure. Chasing goals often creates immense pressure. Pressure leads to avoidance. Avoidance leads to procrastination. Discipline removes pressure by shifting focus from the distant goal to today's process. You stop constantly asking, how far am I from the goal? And instead focus on what needs to be done today. This simplifies life dramatically. Emotional stability. Discipline builds emotional stability over time. When your actions are consistent, your emotions become calmer and more predictable. Mood swings lose their power over your behavior. Decisions become clearer. Clarity improves judgment. Good judgment improves outcomes. This creates a positive feedback loop. Quiet confidence. When discipline is practiced daily, confidence grows quietly in the background. True confidence is not loud or boastful. It comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. That knowledge is built through repeated action, not through affirmations or positive thinking. Each day you follow through, you reinforce the belief, I am someone who does what they say. Managing fear. Big goals can create paralyzing fear. Fear often hides behind doubt and delay tactics. Daily discipline keeps fear small and manageable. It focuses attention on manageable effort rather than overwhelming outcomes. Small effort feels safe. Safety allows action. Action reduces fear through proving capability. The momentum machine. Discipline also creates momentum. Momentum makes effort progressively easier. When effort feels easier, consistency increases. Consistency leads to improvement. Improvement reinforces discipline. This cycle builds exponential strength. Discipline versus harsh control. Many people confuse discipline with harsh self-control or punishment. True discipline is actually care. It's choosing today what supports your future self. Daily discipline is self-respect in action. It protects you from impulsive decisions that cost you later. Goal clarity. When discipline becomes part of daily life, goals become clearer. You start setting better goals. Goals aligned with your values rather than your ego or society's expectations. Discipline improves self-awareness. Self-awareness improves direction. The comparison trap. Chasing goals often leads to constant comparison with others. Comparison drains energy and motivation. Discipline shifts focus inward. You measure success by your own follow-through, not by external standards. This creates inner stability regardless of what others are doing. Building patience. Discipline also builds patience, which is absolutely necessary for meaningful progress. Without patience, people rush. Rushing creates mistakes. Mistakes create discouragement. Discouragement leads to quitting. Discipline slows the pace to what can actually be sustained long term. Reducing decision fatigue. Daily discipline dramatically reduces decision fatigue. When actions are pre-planned and automatically repeated, there's significantly less thinking required. Less thinking saves mental energy. Saved energy can be redirected toward focus on important tasks. Outcomes versus behavior. Goals are outcomes, discipline is behavior. You control your behavior, you do not fully control outcomes, which depend on many factors. Focusing on what you actually can control reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety improves performance. Preparation for challenges. Discipline prepares you for inevitable challenges. Life does not wait for you to feel confident or ready. Challenges appear unexpectedly. Discipline builds strength before challenges arrive. This preparation dramatically reduces the damage that challenges can cause. Teaching responsibility. Daily discipline teaches personal responsibility. Responsibility builds maturity. Maturity builds leadership capability. Leadership begins with successfully leading yourself before leading others. Improving integrity. Discipline also improves integrity. Integrity means your actions match your stated values. Daily discipline aligns behavior with intention. That alignment creates inner peace and self-respect, humbling the ego. Big goals can inflate ego. Discipline humbles ego. It reminds you daily that progress requires effort, not just ideas or talent. That humility keeps learning alive. Pride prevents growth, humility enables it. Recovery from setbacks. Discipline helps you recover faster from inevitable setbacks. When discipline is routine, setbacks do not stop all progress. You simply return to the process. The process carries you forward through difficult times. Quiet training. Daily discipline is quiet training that no one sees. No one applauds it. No one even knows about it. But it builds results that cannot be easily taken away. Those results are earned, not given. Making motivation optional. When discipline becomes habitual, motivation becomes optional. You act because it's time to act, not because you feel inspired. This stability creates long-term success that motivation-dependent people can never achieve. Time awareness. Discipline improves time awareness. You begin to respect time as your most valuable non-renewable resource. You stop wasting it. You use it intentionally. Intentional time use compounds progress. Transferable skill. Goals often change based on circumstances. Discipline remains useful regardless of the specific goal. It's a transferable skill. Once built in one area, it supports every other area of life. Reducing regret. Discipline reduces regret. Regret comes from knowing you didn't try, from looking back and wishing you had done more. Daily discipline ensures effort was made. Peace comes from knowing you gave genuine effort regardless of outcome. Building trust. Discipline creates trust. Trust with yourself and trust from others. Trust builds opportunity. Opportunity rewards discipline. This creates an upward spiral. The foundation. Practice discipline before chasing goals because discipline is the foundation. Without foundation, even beautiful structures eventually collapse. With proper foundation, growth is stable and sustainable. Character over destiny. The strongest individuals are not driven by goals alone. They are guided by disciplined behavior. That internal guidance keeps them moving forward even when the path is unclear or obstacles appear. Shaping character. Daily discipline shapes character. Character shapes destiny. Destiny is not random or determined by luck. It is built daily through deliberate choice. The priority. Choose discipline first. Let goals follow naturally. This reversed order changes everything. Discipline prepares you to handle success when it eventually arrives. Without discipline, success becomes unstable and often destructive. Chapter 3. Repeat simple habits until change becomes visible. The patience problem. Real change takes time. Most people understand this intellectually on the surface, but when they don't see fast results, they get emotionally discouraged. They want to change their life, their health, their mindset, their habits, but they quit before giving anything sufficient time to work. What they fundamentally miss is that real change doesn't announce itself loudly. The silent nature of change. Change doesn't knock on your door after a few days and declare, "Here I am." It creeps in silently through small, simple actions that are done over and over again. Even when nothing seems to be changing on the surface, profound changes are happening beneath visibility. You don't need a complicated routine to improve your life. You need simple habits that you repeat until the results eventually start to show up. Why simple habits work better? There's a neurological reason why simple habits work better than big dramatic efforts. Your brain can handle small things without triggering resistance. It doesn't panic or activate defense mechanisms when you decide to read 5 minutes daily, drink an extra glass of water, or stretch before bed. These actions feel doable to your nervous system. They don't threaten your current comfort or identity. That's exactly why they work while grand plans fail. Manageability determines success. The more manageable the habit, the more likely you are to actually do it consistently. And once you do it enough times, something psychologically important starts happening. You start believing that change is possible for you personally. You begin seeing yourself transforming into the kind of person who follows through. The early quitting problem. The problem is that people often quit far too early. They think, I've been eating healthy for a week, but nothing's changed, or I've meditated for 10 days and I still feel stressed. What they don't understand is that results don't appear on your timeline or schedule. They appear when your actions have compounded enough to create visible impact. The timeline reality. Think carefully about how long it took to build your current habits. The bad ones, the unhelpful ones, the self-defeating patterns. They didn't appear overnight. They were created through repetition over months or years. If you want to replace them with better habits, the same rule applies. Repetition builds change. Not just any repetition, but the kind that's grounded in simplicity and consistent daily practice. The entry barrier. Simple habits lower the barrier to entry. When something is simple, you don't need to negotiate with yourself every time you need to do it. You don't need to argue or hype yourself up. You don't need perfect conditions. It becomes automatic and non-negotiable. That's when it starts to fundamentally shape your identity. Identity shift through language. You stop saying things like, I'm trying to eat healthy, and you naturally start saying, I eat healthy. You stop saying, I'm trying to be consistent, and start saying, I'm a consistent person. Focusing on building systems and processes rather than setting specific goals can lead to sustained progress. That subtle shift in language reflects a profound shift in identity, and identity-level change is extraordinarily powerful. Why visibility takes time. Let's discuss why visibility takes significant time. When you start doing something new, even something seemingly simple, it's happening under the surface first, invisible to external observation. Your brain is adjusting neural pathways, your body is adapting physically, your decisions are shifting, but on the outside, nothing seems different yet. The critical danger zone. This is the phase where most people give up. They assume the habit isn't working because they can't see change yet. But change is already happening, just not in a way you can immediately measure or observe. This is where faith in the process matters most. Seeds and trust. Simple habits plant seeds. You don't dig them up every few days to check if they're growing. That kills them. You keep watering them consistently, trusting that results are on the way, even though you can't see them yet. If you want to change your life fundamentally, you need to understand the power of waiting while working simultaneously. That's what repeating simple habits teaches you. It trains your patience. It sharpens your focus on process rather than results. It removes the drama and emotional roller coaster from the growth process and teaches you how to stay calm while you grow. The growth guarantee. And you will grow if you keep going. This is guaranteed by the mathematics of compound growth. You don't need to change everything at once. In fact, you shouldn't try to. When you attempt to fix everything overnight, your system gets completely overwhelmed. You burn out quickly, you fall back into old patterns faster than you left them, the strategic approach. But when you carefully pick one or two small actions, ones that directly matter to your goals, and you repeat them daily without exception, something significant shifts. That small, consistent act becomes a stabilizer. It keeps your day grounded. It reminds you of your progress even when the day feels difficult or chaotic. How momentum actually builds. This is also how real momentum is built. Not from motivation or hype or inspiration, but from stacking small wins. Every single time you follow through on a simple habit, you get a little win. Those wins may seem inconsequential in isolation, but they build confidence. They remind you that you're capable of change. Over time, they stack up into something undeniably noticeable. They change how you feel about yourself, not just what you do. What people forget. Here's something else most people forget. Not seeing results right away does not mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're doing something that requires time. There is no quick version of real transformation. There is only consistent effort sustained long enough to matter. You have to be willing to look unchanged while you're becoming someone new internally. That takes strength, that takes faith in yourself and in the process, the sudden appearance. But it's worth it because the version of you that grows from simple repeated habits is stronger than any version that appeared overnight. And the truth is, once you do start seeing results, they often come all at once. People will observe you and say you changed fast, but you didn't change fast. You changed quietly, privately, one small action at a time over extended time. Eventually, those quiet efforts became visible to others. The cascade effect. Your energy improved, your thinking got clearer, your body felt stronger, your mindset felt calmer. But it all started with simple daily actions that most people would dismiss as too small to matter. Beyond outcomes. Repeating habits is not just about outcomes and end results. It's about who you become in the process of doing them. You become someone who follows through, someone who can count on themselves, someone who doesn't rely on the mood of the day to take action. That kind of person can handle stress better. They make smarter choices. They live with more self-respect. And all of that shows not in one dramatic moment, but in your entire way of being, protecting your habits. It's important to protect the habits you choose. Once they're in place, they become a part of your foundation. Life will inevitably test your consistency. You'll have busy days, low energy days, emotional days. Those are the days when your simple habits will keep you anchored and prevent complete collapse. Survival through simplicity. The smaller and clearer the habit, the more likely it is to survive those hard moments. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for everything to make perfect sense. Pick one thing that matters and start doing it today. Keep it so simple that you have no excuse to skip it. The repetition rule. Once you start, repeat it. Not for a few days, not until it feels boring, but until change becomes visible. And then keep going even longer. Because by then, it's not just a habit anymore. It's a part of who you are. Why disciplined people stick to basics. There's a reason the most grounded and disciplined people in the world stick to the basics. They don't search for magic tricks or shortcuts. They double down on the fundamentals. They focus on what works, even if it seems small. And because they repeat those actions with care and intention, they get results that last, not because they're special or gifted, but because they understand what most ignore. Simple, repeated actions create lasting, visible change. Your capability. You are no different. You have everything it takes to build a better life. You don't need to change all at once. You just need to start. Pick a simple habit and do it every single day. Watch what happens. Not in a day, not in a week, but in time. Time will pass. Anyway, that time will pass either way. If you use it well, your life will quietly change, and soon the results will no longer be invisible. They will be undeniable. Chapter 4. Do the basics daily without negotiating. The knowledge versus action gap. Most people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because they don't consistently do what they already know works. They wait, they question, they hesitate, and in that space between knowing and doing, in that gap, they lose time, energy, and progress. The basics have always worked, but only for people willing to do them consistently without needing to argue with themselves every single day. The daily choice. Every morning, you face a choice. You can either do what moves your life forward, or you can negotiate with it. You can start your day with clear intention, or you can start it with delay and rationalization. The people who get real results are not always the smartest. They are not always the most motivated, but they are committed to doing the basic things that matter without needing to debate it in their mind first. When negotiation begins. The moment you begin giving yourself room to decide whether or not to do the basics, you've already stepped out of discipline and into emotion. And when emotions take the lead, consistency inevitably suffers. This is not about being harsh or rigid with yourself. This is about becoming someone who lives by decisions made from clarity, not by feelings that shift every few hours. Boring is not bad. Doing the basics daily is not about being extreme or impressive. It's about being steady. There's nothing complicated about waking up on time, planning your day, eating with awareness, moving your body, reading something that sharpens your mind, or reviewing your progress. These are all things anyone can do. But what separates people is the mindset behind those actions, optional versus non-negotiable. For some people, the basics are optional, something they do when convenient. For others, the basics are non-negotiable, something they do regardless of convenience, and that makes all the difference in outcomes. When you start treating the basics like they're optional, they lose power. You become more reactive to circumstances. You start chasing complexity instead of focusing on consistency. You look for better systems instead of building better follow-through. The real issue. You assume the issue is what you're doing when the real issue is how often you're doing it. You don't need a new strategy every week. You need stronger commitment to the strategy you already have that you know works. Why people don't see change. The reason many people don't see change is not because they aren't doing anything. It's because they aren't doing the right things consistently enough to create lasting momentum. Every time you skip the basics, you teach your subconscious mind that your word doesn't matter. But when you follow through without needing to convince yourself, you rebuild inner strength. Where strength shows up, that internal strength shows up in every area of your life. It shows up in how you speak to yourself. It shows up in the respect you carry. It shows up in your ability to stay focused when distractions come. Building mental discipline. Doing the basics daily without negotiating builds mental discipline. That discipline gives you freedom. Freedom to not be pulled by every passing feeling. Freedom to not rely on bursts of motivation. Freedom to stay calm and clear when life gets messy. The misconception about discipline. Most people think discipline is about restriction and limitation. In truth, discipline is about making life more predictable, more stable, and more intentional. Routines provide order and structure, preventing overwhelm and chaos in life. The underestimation. It's easy to underestimate the basics. They're not exciting, they're not flashy, they don't make headlines or get likes on social media, but they change people. They build resilience, they develop character, and they lead to results that stay. The minimum requirement. You don't have to do everything right to move forward. You just have to do the right things repeatedly. The basics are not glamorous, but they are powerful. They don't demand talent or luck, only effort and honesty. When you commit without arguing, when you commit to doing them every single day without arguing, without stalling, without waiting for the mood to be perfect, life begins to respond. Small disciplines compound into massive progress, but only if you protect them from delay and negotiation. The pause problem. You can't keep pressing pause on the things you know will help you grow. The more you pause, the longer it takes to get momentum back. And momentum is everything in personal growth. When you lose it, getting it back takes more energy than most people expect. But when you guard it by doing the basics daily, momentum begins to carry you forward. Building identity. Doing the basics without negotiation also builds identity. Every time you show up, even when it's boring or inconvenient, you confirm a truth about yourself. I am consistent. I am focused. I am in control of my time and actions. Over time, that identity becomes stronger than your excuses. Automatic, not exciting. You don't need to make the basics feel exciting. You need to make them feel automatic. You don't have to enjoy every part of the process. You just have to respect what it builds in you. And the way to make something automatic is through repetition, not complicated plans, not chasing a better mood, just steady repetition. The power of non-negotiation. Some days you'll feel tired, some days you'll be busy, some days you'll want to postpone. That's when the power of non-negotiation kicks in. That's when you realize that you're no longer depending on willpower. You're depending on standards that you've set for yourself. The clarity of decision, you don't decide whether to do it. You already decided. Now you act on that decision. There's a kind of peace that comes with this way of living. It's not loud, it doesn't need praise, but it gives you confidence that lasts, knowing who you'll be. You don't wake up wondering who you'll be that day. You already know. You're someone who shows up, who takes action, who doesn't talk yourself out of what matters. That clarity is rare, and it's built through small daily efforts that most people skip. Rising above average. If you want to rise above average, Stop negotiating with yourself about things that should already be part of your routine. The difference between a productive day and a chaotic one is often a few simple actions done early and done without delay. What basics set? The basics set the tone. They give your day a clear foundation. Without them, you're left reacting to everything that comes your way. Your sphere of control. You might not control everything in life, but you control whether or not you do the things that strengthen your body, mind, and focus. That control is a gift, one that should not be wasted on overthinking or overplanning. Motivation versus commitment. You don't need motivation to do what matters. You need commitment. Motivation is a feeling. Commitment is a choice. And the choice to follow through, even when it's not convenient, is what separates progress from procrastination. Where breakthroughs happen. Most of your breakthroughs won't happen during big moments. They'll happen quietly in your daily habits, in the actions you take when no one is watching. The basics don't just prepare you for the big moments, they become the reason those big moments happen in the first place, when change begins. Real change begins when you stop letting your feelings vote on your actions. You know what you need to do. Now it's about doing it. Not once, not when it's easy, but every single day without asking yourself whether you feel like it. The core meaning. Because the truth is, you won't always feel like it, but you can always choose it. That's what doing the basics without negotiating really means. It means choosing consistency over comfort, progress over procrastination, and character over convenience. It's not easy, but it's always worth it. Chapter 5. Build momentum through small daily commitments, where progress actually begins. Progress begins small. That's where many people fundamentally get it wrong. They wait for motivation, for the perfect plan, for the big leap that will change everything. They think they need to make huge moves to change their life. But the truth is, what actually changes you is momentum. And momentum doesn't begin with big victories or dramatic transformations. It begins with small daily commitments that you honor, no matter how simple they are, no matter how insignificant they might seem. Creating momentum. Momentum is not something you passively wait for, like waiting for inspiration to strike. It's something you actively create, one small step at a time. If you want to feel more motivated, don't wait for inspiration to find you. Build momentum through action, and the easiest way to do that is by making a promise to yourself that's so clear, so simple, that there's no reason to skip it. The foundation promise. One daily task, one clear action done repeatedly. That's where things start moving. That's where your mindset shifts from "I can't" to "I'm doing it." Momentum is built when you stop overthinking and start doing, even if it's 5 minutes of work, even if it's a single healthy choice, even if it seems too small to count. The brain records wins. The moment you complete one action, your brain records it as a win. That win triggers energy. That energy gives you confidence. Confidence leads to the next action. That's how momentum builds naturally. You don't need massive discipline to start. You just need to keep one promise and then another. Why small commitments are powerful? Small commitments are powerful because they're realistic. When you commit to something big and you miss, you feel like a failure. The emotional weight crushes your motivation. But when you commit to something small, something manageable, and you do it, you feel proud. That pride reinforces behavior. It tells your brain, "I can do this." From that feeling, your effort grows organically. The stuck feeling. If you've ever felt stuck, chances are you were waiting to feel ready. But waiting keeps you in place. The longer you wait, the heavier action starts to feel. The weight doesn't come from the task itself. It comes from the pressure you've built around it. But once you act, even on a small scale, that weight begins to lift. The liberation of action. You don't have to do everything. You just have to start something. Momentum feels good because it gives you proof that you're not staying still. Even if the progress is slow, movement brings clarity. Daily follow-through. Every day that you follow through on a small commitment, your mind becomes more organized. Your thoughts feel less scattered. Your goals start to feel possible. That's not because of big breakthroughs. That's because you showed up. How small can make a difference. You might wonder how something so small can make a difference. But think about it. Every habit you have now was built from something you repeated. At first, it wasn't automatic. It took a decision. It took effort. But you kept doing it, and now it's part of you. That's how momentum works. It starts small, but it grows stronger the more you feed it. Self-trust and growth. One of the best things you can do for your growth is stop chasing perfection and start honoring your commitments. Don't set goals that require perfect execution. Set commitments you can follow through on, even on your worst days. That's what makes them stick. That's what builds trust in yourself. And that self-trust is where momentum comes alive. When you skip your commitments, you don't just lose time, you lose belief. But when you follow through, especially when you don't feel like it, you gain something more valuable than results. You gain identity. You start to see yourself as someone who takes action, someone who doesn't wait to feel perfect, someone who can be counted on. Plans don't build momentum. You don't need more plans, you need more doing. Plans don't build momentum, action does. And that action doesn't have to be loud, it just has to be real. You can keep your commitments quiet. You don't need to announce them, just do them day after day. Let the results speak later. Speed versus movement. Momentum doesn't ask you to move fast. It asks you to keep moving. There's a difference. You don't need to rush. You don't need to do more than you can handle. You just need to avoid standing still. That's the key. Because once you stop completely, it takes twice the effort to restart, keeping the path open. But if you keep moving, even slowly, the path stays open. You will have days when your energy is low. You'll have moments when your mind wants to give up. That's when your small commitments matter most. They remind you that progress is still possible. They keep you from slipping back into the patterns that held you down. Size doesn't matter in hard times. In those moments, the size of your action doesn't matter. Only the fact that you act. Your life changes when your decisions stop depending on your mood. That's what daily commitments teach you. They give you control. They teach you how to move through resistance without needing to fight it. You stop waiting for the perfect mood to act. You act because that's who you are now. Effort to habit. Momentum turns effort into habit. Once your actions become part of your rhythm, they take less thought. You don't have to use willpower every time. You just do what you've committed to. That frees up mental energy. And that energy can be used for higher level thinking, deeper work, better decisions. The liberating realization. One of the most freeing realizations is knowing that you don't need to feel ready to move forward. You just need to begin. The act of starting, even small, tells your brain that this matters. It wakes up your focus. It breaks the cycle of delay. That's the moment momentum is born. Control what you can. You don't have to control everything to make progress. You just have to control what you do today, what you commit to right now. And if that commitment is clear and simple, and you repeat it daily, the long-term impact can be massive. Past doesn't define future. It doesn't matter how many times you've quit before. What matters is what you do next. Momentum doesn't care about your past. It only responds to your present action. One solid day leads to another. One strong choice turns into a routine. One small victory becomes a lifestyle. Starting point. So start with something you can't talk yourself out of. Something small, something clear. Show up for it today. Show up again tomorrow. Stack those days until your mind stops questioning and starts expecting the quiet power. You won't always feel momentum. Some days it's quiet, some days it's barely noticeable, but it's still there, as long as you keep showing up. And when you do that long enough, something powerful happens. You stop chasing change and you start becoming it, the real truth. All because you made small commitments and honored them daily. That's the truth. Momentum is not magic. It's not luck. It's not motivation. It's built by people who decide that doing something small every day is enough to move forward. And they're right, because those small daily commitments, repeated with purpose, lead to big, lasting change. Not all at once, but in time, and always in your control. Chapter 6. Stick to boring routines that create progress. The feel of progress. Progress doesn't always feel exciting. In fact, most of the time, real progress feels repetitive, predictable, and yes, boring. And that's where many people lose the game. They think if it's not new, it's not working. If it doesn't feel exciting, it must not be helping. But the truth is, the routines that seem dull to the mind are often the ones that fundamentally reshape your life. What creates change? It's not the new strategies you try for 2 days that change you, it's the consistent basic routines you repeat without needing a reward every time. People tend to chase what feels different: a new workout program, a new productivity book, a new way of planning their day. But change doesn't come from switching plans all the time. It comes from sticking with a set of routines long enough to let the effects kick in. The repetitive truth. And here's the thing: those routines will often feel repetitive. They'll feel ordinary. But ordinary is not the enemy. In fact, ordinary is where transformation begins. The routines that create progress aren't meant to entertain you. They're meant to ground you. They're meant to give your day structure. They're meant to keep you moving. When everything shifts, when motivation runs out, when stress hits, or when life feels off balance, when everything around you is shifting, those routines stay the same. They keep you anchored. Some people waste months looking for something better instead of committing to what already works. They jump from system to system, hoping to find something more exciting. Entertainment versus consistency. But progress is not about being entertained. It's about being consistent. You don't need to feel thrilled to build a better life. You just need to show up and do what you said you would do, even when it's not exciting. Energy protection. Boring routines protect your energy. You don't have to decide what to do every day. You just follow the plan you've already built. That saves mental space. It helps you focus. You're not caught in overthinking. You just act. That's where momentum is created. And momentum turns daily routines into long-term results. The daily struggle. The truth is, you're not going to feel like doing the right thing every day. No one does. But when you've built solid routines, you don't need to feel like it. The decision is already made. You get up, you follow the steps, and you move forward. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop depending on mood. You just do it. That's power. That's control. Teaching discipline. Routines also teach you discipline. Not the loud kind of discipline that needs to be seen, but the quiet, steady kind that keeps your life moving forward. Habits require problem solving and strategy. Forming lasting habits is more like developing expertise. You don't get strong by doing something once with intensity. You get strong by doing it repeatedly with intention. Chore to identity. Over time, what once felt like a chore becomes part of who you are. When you stick with the same daily actions, tracking your habits, reading for 10 minutes, exercising even a little, reviewing your goals, you're not just doing tasks, you're shaping your mindset, you're training your brain to value effort over comfort. You're choosing purpose over entertainment, and that decision shapes everything. Freedom in structure. There's a strange kind of freedom that comes when you no longer need every day to feel special. When you can wake up and go through your routine, even when life is quiet, even when no one is watching. You start to feel stronger inside. You trust yourself more. You stop needing permission. You stop relying on outside validation. You take ownership of your path, the compound effect. And when you do that long enough, the results begin to show. Not overnight, not in one big moment, but slowly in how you think, in how you speak to yourself, in how you handle problems. Suddenly the version of you that used to quit is gone, replaced by someone reliable, someone calm, someone who doesn't panic under pressure, all because you stuck with the basics long after they stopped feeling exciting. The underestimation. It's easy to underestimate how powerful a simple routine can be. But what's even easier is to get distracted by options. You start questioning your progress. You start asking if there's a faster way. But what you really need isn't more options. You need more patience. The kind of patience that lets a process do its work, because even the best plan won't deliver results if you abandon it too soon. The invisible work. The routines that bring results are often invisible to the outside world. No one sees you drinking more water. No one claps when you journal for 5 minutes. There's no spotlight when you say no to distractions and stick to your schedule. But these little actions are building something inside you. They're building consistency. They're building strength. And eventually, they will build results that can't be ignored. Handling chaos. Boring routines also help you handle chaos. Life will always throw unexpected things your way. You can't avoid that. But what you can do is keep your routine steady no matter what's going on. That stability gives you the ability to respond instead of react. It gives you clarity, and clarity is rare in a noisy world. Avoiding waste. When you know what your day looks like, when you've already chosen your priorities, you don't waste time chasing distractions. You stay focused, you stay intentional. That's what turns a regular day into a productive one. And it all comes from sticking to your routine, even when it's not exciting. The people you admire. Think about the people you admire, the ones who seem grounded, sharp, and consistent. They're not living on emotion, they're living on systems. They have routines that protect their energy, their time, and their mindset. And they guard those routines because they know how much power they hold. You can build this, you can build that too. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be steady. Pick the routines that support your goals and do them daily. Not for a week, not until you're bored, but long enough for them to become a part of how you live. That's when things shift. That's when growth becomes real. Intensity versus reliability. It's not about intensity, it's about reliability. You don't need to do everything all at once. You just need to do something that moves you forward and do it every day. That's how real progress is made. Quietly, consistently, through routines that feel small but build something big. The peace of knowing. When you learn to stick with the boring work, you gain something most people never have: peace of mind. You don't wake up anxious about what to do next. You already know. You just follow the path you've built, and that path leads somewhere worth going. Real growth. Growth doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be flashy. It just has to be real. And real growth is built on routines that work, even if they aren't exciting. So show up, do the work, repeat the basics, and trust that results will come. Not because you chased something new, but because you stayed loyal to what works. One day at a time, and that's how real progress is built. One boring but powerful day at a time. Chapter 7. Choose steady effort daily over dramatic change. The universal want. Most people want change, but they want it fast. They want to wake up tomorrow and feel like everything is different. Their body, their mindset, their habits, their life. But fast change doesn't last. It burns hot, then fades. That's why the key isn't dramatic change. It's steady effort repeated daily. That kind of effort feels slow. It doesn't impress anybody. But it works because steady effort builds things that don't break when life gets hard. Why people don't get results. The reason most people don't get the results they want is not because they don't try. It's because they try too much too quickly. And when the excitement wears off, they stop. Dramatic change feels exciting in the beginning. It promises quick results. But excitement is a terrible fuel source. It runs out fast, and when it does, most people quit. What actually matters? What matters more is the kind of effort that doesn't depend on mood or energy, the kind of effort that becomes part of your routine. That's what builds real change. Steady effort is quieter. It's more honest. You're not chasing extremes. You're doing the work even when it's not thrilling. You're not rushing toward the finish line. You're building a foundation you can stand on. You're choosing progress over perfection. And that choice made daily is what makes the biggest difference in the long run. How change actually arrives. Change that lasts never shows up all at once. It arrives in small steps. It's built from consistent effort. You do the work when it's boring. You stay focused when no one's cheering you on. You stick with the plan when you feel like giving up. That's not easy, but it's powerful because each day you do that, you become a little more solid, a little more focused, a little more dependable to yourself. Control through steady effort. Steady effort gives you control. You don't have to depend on perfect conditions or good moods. You decide what matters and you commit to it. That removes so much stress. You stop reacting to life and start leading it. You stop being pulled by emotions and start being guided by values. The problem with dramatic change. The problem with dramatic change is that it doesn't teach you how to live. It teaches you how to push hard for short periods, then collapse. But life doesn't work like that. Life rewards what you can sustain, and what you can sustain is almost always simple, steady actions done every day. That's where growth comes from. Overestimation and underestimation. Most people overestimate what they can do in a short time and underestimate what they can do in a year. But if you chose one small useful action and repeated it every day, no matter what, you would be shocked at how much your life shifts in 6 months. Not because you changed everything overnight, but because you stayed consistent when others didn't. Humbling nature. Steady effort is also humbling. It reminds you that growth doesn't come from one breakthrough. It comes from staying in the game when the results are slow. It comes from doing the next right thing, even when you're tired. That kind of effort doesn't make headlines, but it makes character. And character is what makes results stick. Why people quit. If you've ever started something and quit quickly, it's not because you're weak. It's because you were chasing the feeling of progress instead of building the habit of effort. Feelings come and go. Habits stay. That's why steady effort always wins. It's not exciting, it's not flashy, but it works. The bad days. There will be days when you don't feel like doing anything. That's normal, but steady effort doesn't ask you to be perfect. It just asks you to show up. Maybe you can't do a full workout, but you can walk for 10 minutes. Maybe you can't read a whole chapter, but you can read 2 pages. That's what steady effort looks like. You don't do everything, but you do something, and that something adds up. Stop chasing shortcuts. You also stop chasing shortcuts. You realize that slow progress is better than fake progress. You stop jumping from one idea to another. You stop needing everything to feel new. You stick with what works, and you make it part of your life. That's not easy, but it's worth it. Building trust. Steady effort builds trust with yourself. You start believing what you say, you start following through. That internal trust is more powerful than any outside motivation. It means you can rely on yourself even when life gets hard. And life will get hard. That's why you need something deeper than hype to carry you through. Stop looking. When you build your life on steady effort, you stop looking for the next big thing. You realize you already have what you need. You don't need to do something huge. You just need to keep doing what matters day by day, even when it's small, even when it's quiet. Stable progress. Progress built on steady effort is stable. It doesn't crash when you hit a rough patch. It holds strong because you didn't take shortcuts. You built it honestly through action, through showing up, through choosing effort over excuses. That's how real results are made. The calm. There's a calm that comes when you stop trying to fix everything at once. You stop putting pressure on yourself to transform overnight. You accept the pace of real growth. You begin to enjoy the process. You learn to respect the work that changes you. It makes you patient. It makes you focused. It makes you strong. Delayed results. You might not see results right away. That's okay. You're not doing it for instant reward. You're doing it to build something solid, something that lasts. Every day you choose steady effort, you add one more brick to the life you're building. And even if no one sees those bricks now, they will later because effort leaves a mark. Ordinary with commitment. You don't need to do extraordinary things. You need to do ordinary things with commitment. That's what creates extraordinary outcomes. One day at a time, one choice at a time. That's the path. Addiction to consistency. The most successful people in the world aren't addicted to speed. They're addicted to consistency. They know that if they stay steady, they will get there. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but eventually because they don't quit. They don't explode and burn out. They rise slowly and steadily. The choice. So choose steady effort when it's slow, when it's repetitive, when it's not glamorous. Choose it anyway because that's what builds something real. You're not in a race. You're building a life. Do it wisely. Do it patiently. Do it daily. The true rewards. The rewards of steady effort are not just seen in what you achieve. They're felt in who you become. You become focused. You become grounded. You become unshakable. And no dramatic shift can give you that. Only steady effort can. Chapter 8. Strengthen life by honoring daily disciplines, not built by chance. A strong life is not built by chance. It's built by what you do over and over again. When you look at people who seem focused, balanced, and confident, it's not because their life is easier. It's because they've learned to build structure. They've learned how to take control of their time, their habits, their mindset. And the way they've done that is by honoring daily disciplines. Not sometimes, not just when they feel like it, but every single day. What disciplines actually are. Daily disciplines are not just actions, they are reminders. They remind you of who you want to be. They pull you out of distraction and back into purpose. They keep your values visible and they turn your good intentions into actual behavior. Without daily disciplines, life becomes reactive. You wake up and let the day decide how you feel, what you do, and where your energy goes. But with discipline, you choose how to move. You lead the day instead of being led by it. The shift. When you honor your daily disciplines, something shifts. You start noticing how much power you actually have. You don't wait for motivation to strike. You don't need to be inspired. You become consistent because it's your standard. That consistency doesn't just make you more productive, it makes you stronger inside. You stop doubting your ability to follow through. You trust yourself more. Calm and stability. That trust gives you calm. It gives you stability. And stability is rare in a world filled with chaos. Daily disciplines give your life rhythm. They add meaning to ordinary days. Most people think strength comes from huge moments, big wins, major changes. But the truth is, strength is built quietly. It's built by doing what matters, especially when it's not exciting. Building mental muscle. When you show up for yourself through discipline, you build mental muscle. You create emotional structure, you protect your time, you stay close to the things that move your life forward. You don't have to do 100 things to feel in control, you just have to do a few things that matter and do them every day. Simple yet powerful. These can be simple. Plan your day in the morning, write down what you're grateful for. Take care of your body. Spend a few minutes in silence. Stick to your bedtime. Check in with your goals. None of these things are complex, but their power is in the repetition over time. They become habits, and habits shape your identity. Disciplined versus restricted. A disciplined life doesn't mean a restricted life. It means a focused one. It means you don't waste time arguing with your impulses. You don't start over every Monday. You don't rely on bursts of motivation that never last. You rely on structure. You make fewer decisions because your priorities are already clear. That reduces stress. That saves energy. That helps you stay grounded in what really matters. The harder alternative. You might think discipline is hard to build, but what's harder is living without it. When you don't have structure, everything feels urgent. Your mind races. Your emotions take over. You fall behind on what's important because you're always catching up. That drains you, direction and energy. But when you have a routine, when you have discipline, your day has direction. Your energy has a place to go. That makes life easier, not harder. Some people fear discipline because they think it takes away freedom. But freedom without direction leads to chaos. Real freedom is knowing that your actions match your goals, that you're not just surviving your days, you're shaping them. Discipline helps you do that. It helps you protect your peace. It helps you spend time on what matters, and it keeps you away from the distractions that pull you away from your purpose. The skipping cycle. It's easy to skip the basics. Easy to say, I'll get back on track tomorrow. But every skipped action adds up. It weakens your momentum. It sends a message to your mind that your word isn't strong. On the other hand, when you show up daily, you reinforce the opposite. You prove to yourself that your word means something. That kind of self-respect changes how you think, how you speak, and how you treat your own time. Perfection versus participation. Discipline is not about perfection. You will slip sometimes. You'll have days that don't go to plan. But when discipline is part of your life, those days don't destroy your progress. You don't spiral. You don't abandon the process. You reset quickly. You return to your rhythm. That's the difference between someone who builds long-term growth and someone who keeps starting over. The empowerment. There's nothing more empowering than knowing you have control over how you live. And that control starts with your daily choices. Not once in a while, every day. When you make those choices consistent, you create stability. That stability gives you space to grow. It gives you strength to handle stress. It makes your foundation unshakable even when your external life feels uncertain. Keeping you steady. Daily disciplines keep you steady. They remind you of what you can control. You might not control outcomes, you might not control other people, but you control whether you honor the habits that support your mind, your body, your goals. That control is a gift you give yourself every time you show up, even in small ways. More clear-headed. If you want to feel more clear-headed, more focused, more confident, start with your discipline. Start with the small things. Keep your word to yourself. Finish what you start. Follow the structure that helps you stay balanced. It may not feel exciting, but it's powerful because every time you stick with discipline, you rise above distraction. You step away from chaos, you move closer to the person you want to become. Looking for one big thing? People are often looking for one big breakthrough, but what they really need is a better routine. They need to stop chasing new answers and start respecting the process. Discipline is the process. It's the path that leads to clarity, not confusion, to confidence, not doubt, to results, not excuses. The starting point. You don't have to change your entire life overnight, but you do need to commit to small disciplines daily. If you do that, your confidence will rise, your direction will become clear, and your life will gain momentum that no outside force can take from you. You'll stop feeling like you're falling behind. You'll feel like you're finally in control. Quiet strength. Strength isn't loud. It doesn't need to be seen. It's built internally, through repetition, through structure, through quiet discipline honored day after day. That's what strengthens your life. That's what creates a version of you that can handle stress, pressure, and uncertainty. Not because you're perfect, but because you're consistent, and that consistency makes you unstoppable. Chapter 9. Repeat positive actions until they shape character. Character definition. Who you are is not just defined by what you think or believe. It's shaped by what you do over and over again. Character is not built in one big moment of change. It's built through small, repeated actions that you choose daily. And when those actions are positive, intentional, and aligned with your values, they begin to create a version of you that you're proud of. Not because of what you say, but because of what you consistently practice. How the strongest became strong. The strongest, calmest, most disciplined people you know didn't become that way overnight. They became that way through repetition, through choosing positive actions and choosing them again and again until those actions no longer felt forced, until those choices became part of their natural response. That's what shapes character. Not a single decision, but thousands of them repeated without drama, without noise, and without quitting. The pattern problem. The truth is, most people want a different life, but they continue repeating the same reactions, the same attitudes, the same habits. They wait for change to happen to them instead of realizing that character is built by what you do, not what you hope for. Becoming through doing. You don't become honest by thinking about integrity. You become honest by choosing to tell the truth, even when it's inconvenient. You don't become calm by wishing for peace. You become calm by learning to respond with patience, especially when the moment feels tense. These are all choices. And when those choices are made again and again, they begin to define you. Changing patterns. If you want to become someone more focused, more consistent, more reliable, don't try to change your personality. Change your patterns. Start small. Pick one action that reflects the type of person you want to become, then do it every day. At first, it may feel unnatural. You may have to remind yourself. You may slip. But every time you return to it, you strengthen the foundation. And eventually, that action becomes part of who you are. Not about proving. Repeating positive actions is not about proving something to others. It's about becoming someone you trust, someone who doesn't abandon themselves when things get hard, someone who doesn't only do the right thing when it's easy or visible. That quiet self-respect is the core of strong character, and the only way to build it is through consistent follow-through. Acting before feeling. Some people believe they need to feel like a better person before they can act like one. But it's the other way around. When you act in alignment with your values, even in small ways, you start to see yourself differently. You don't wait to feel ready. You behave in a way that reflects who you want to be. That creates internal change. That internal change becomes character, once versus identity. There's a clear difference between doing something once and making it who you are. You can't do the right thing once and expect transformation. Just like you can't go to the gym once and expect to be strong. You have to return. You have to repeat. That's the only way to train your behavior and wire it into your identity. Small yet growing. Positive actions might feel small on their own. Waking up early, saying no to distractions, apologizing when you mess up, being patient in traffic. These things don't seem dramatic, but their impact grows when they're consistent. One positive action can lift your mood. A week of them can shift your energy. A year of them can transform your mindset. And a life of them will define your character. Training ground. Your habits are the training ground for your values. You can't say you value discipline if you never train it. You can't say you care about growth if you avoid the work that creates it. But when you repeat actions that reflect those values, especially when no one else sees it, you prove to yourself that your words match your behavior. That's how trust in yourself grows. That's how you become dependable. That's how character is formed. Discouraged by invisibility. People often get discouraged when they don't feel changed right away, but character doesn't shout. It builds in silence. You may not notice it on the surface, but each time you make a better choice, you're rewiring something. You're shifting your response. You're building discipline in areas where you used to collapse. And over time, those shifts add up. Repetition creates ease. The more you repeat positive actions, the more natural they feel. At first, it takes effort. It might feel awkward or uncomfortable. But with repetition, your brain begins to recognize the pattern. Your body starts to expect it. You begin to anticipate the reward. Eventually, it becomes the default response, not because you forced it, but because you committed to it. Patience required. It's also important to be patient. You might not feel different for a while, but don't let that stop you. Don't stop showing up just because the transformation isn't loud. Keep doing the right thing. Keep honoring the actions that reflect who you want to be. Keep choosing what builds you, not what distracts you. Because character is not something you chase. It's something you become through repetition, humanity, and mistakes. This is not about being perfect. You're human. You will have off days. You will mess up. You will forget. That's part of the process. The point is not to be flawless. The point is to keep returning to the path, to keep choosing the actions that shape the person you want to be. That consistency is more powerful than any one mistake. Starting point. You don't have to do it all at once. Focus on one area, pick one habit. Start there. Maybe it's being more present. Maybe it's following through on your promises. Maybe it's choosing honesty even when it's uncomfortable. Whatever it is, turn it into action. Then repeat it. Don't wait to feel perfect. Don't wait for the right time. Just begin. Invisible in beginning. In the beginning, character building feels invisible. You may feel like you're just going through the motions, but those motions are shaping you. They're building emotional strength, mental clarity, and personal discipline. And eventually, the person you're becoming starts to feel real, not because you imagined it, but because you lived it. Old versus new patterns. When people say, "That's just the way I am," they're often talking about old patterns they've repeated for years. But the good news is new patterns can be built. New traits can be learned. Who you are is not fixed. It's shaped by what you do regularly. That means you can change your life by changing your actions and committing to them long enough to let them change you. What to repeat? Repeat what builds you. Repeat what strengthens you. Repeat what aligns with your values. Over time, those choices shape how you think, how you respond, how you lead yourself. That's what builds strong character. Not ideas, not wishes. Repetition. And if you stay on that path day after day, you will look back one day and realize you didn't just try to become better. You became it. How it's made. Not by chance, not by luck, but by choosing the right actions and repeating them until they became who you are. That's how real character is made. Quietly, consistently, authentically, through action. Chapter 10. Commit to daily practice that compounds growth, the nature of growth. Growth is not something that shows up all at once. It's not something you get after a single decision or a powerful moment of motivation. Growth comes from what you commit to doing every single day, especially when it's hard, especially when it feels slow, and especially when no one else sees it. Who grows most? The people who grow the most are not the ones chasing shortcuts. They're the ones who show up consistently, doing the work that compounds over time. Daily practice is what separates people who stay stuck from people who break through. Overvaluing intensity. The reason so many people feel like they're not moving forward is because they overvalue intensity and undervalue consistency. They try to do everything in one day, but they don't stick with anything long enough to see results. Real growth isn't about going all out once in a while. It's about doing small, focused actions again and again until those actions start creating changes that can't be ignored. The accumulation. Every time you show up, you're adding something. Every time you stick with your practice, you're building. Maybe you can't see it right away, but it's there accumulating. That's the power of compound growth. It doesn't ask you to do extraordinary things. It asks you to do meaningful things consistently, stopping reliance. When you commit to showing up daily, you stop relying on motivation. You stop chasing inspiration. You learn to move whether or not you feel like it. That's what makes your progress stable. You don't get knocked off track by every distraction or emotion. You stay the course. Structure and direction. Daily practice gives your life structure. It helps you build rhythm. It becomes something you can depend on. When your mind feels cluttered, practice gives you clarity. When your day feels chaotic, practice gives you direction. When things feel uncertain, practice reminds you that you still have control. It anchors you, it keeps you grounded in something real, and it does this without needing to be perfect. You don't have to get it right every single time. You just have to keep coming back. The big mistake. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that if it doesn't feel big, it doesn't matter. But the small things repeated over time create more lasting change than anything else. If you want to learn something new, practice it daily. If you want to build better habits, repeat them daily. If you want to become more focused, more calm, more effective, commit to the practices that build those traits and show up every day without overthinking it. Shaping through practice. What you practice daily shapes how you think, how you respond, how you lead yourself. And the longer you stay committed, the more that practice becomes part of your identity. You're no longer someone who tries. You're someone who trains. You're not just dabbling. You're devoted. That kind of identity shift doesn't happen through words. It happens through repetition. Repetition with purpose, repetition with intention, repetition without needing results right away. Patient with process. You have to be patient with the process. You can't speed up growth by wishing for it. You speed it up by removing what slows you down, distractions, inconsistency, and excuses. You speed it up by showing up even when you're tired, even when you're bored, even when no one is watching. Every time you choose to practice instead of skip, you're giving yourself something valuable, the momentum to keep going. Commitment makes practice powerful. Commitment is what makes practice powerful. Without commitment, practice becomes optional. And when it's optional, it rarely gets done. But when it becomes non-negotiable, when it's just part of how you live, it starts working for you in ways you didn't expect. You start to notice you're more focused, more disciplined, more confident. You make better decisions. You feel more in control, all because you didn't stop when it was inconvenient. You kept practicing. Intensity not required. Daily practice doesn't have to be intense to be meaningful. Even 10 minutes of effort matters. Even one simple action matters. What matters most is that you're consistent, that you don't keep stopping and starting, that you stay with it long enough to let it evolve, because over time it always does. Practice compounds. Results begin to grow and the growth becomes exponential. Where people fall off. This is where most people fall off. They expect progress to look fast and dramatic, and when it doesn't, they think something's wrong, but nothing is wrong. It's just not finished yet. The changes are happening. They're just happening underneath the surface. Trusting the process. Trusting that process is part of the discipline. You don't need to see results every day to know you're moving forward. You just need to know that what you're doing is valuable and you need to keep doing it. Teaching humility. Daily practice also teaches you humility. It shows you what still needs work. It reminds you that you're not done learning, that there's always a next level. But it also shows you your own potential. Because the more you stick with it, the more you realize that growth is within your control. That improvement isn't reserved for other people. It's available to anyone who's willing to do the work. System requirements. You don't need a perfect system to grow. You need a real one, one that you can live with, one that fits into your life without exhausting you. The best daily practices are simple. They're clear. They don't drain you, they strengthen you, and they leave you better than they found you every single time. Areas that matter. Think about the areas of your life that matter most to you. Your health, your mindset, your relationships, your work. Each one of these areas can grow if you're willing to show up for them daily. Not with intensity, with intention. not with pressure, with consistency. That's how you make real lasting progress. Hundreds of small efforts. The future you want is not built by one big effort. It's built by hundreds of small ones. Efforts that compound, actions that repeat, choices that align with your values. That's how the gap between where you are and where you want to be begins to close. And the more you commit to the process, the faster that gap shrinks. Starting now. If you're waiting to feel ready, don't. Start now. Choose one thing to practice daily. Keep it simple, make it matter, do it until it becomes part of how you live, and then build on it. Layer more discipline. Expand the effort, but only after the first step becomes natural. That's how strong habits are created, one at a time through consistency, not chaos. Temptation days. You'll have days where you're tempted to skip, days where you question the point, days where results feel distant. On those days, remember this. Every great result you've ever wanted is the result of someone who kept practicing when it would have been easier to stop. Let that be you. Let your life be a reflection of steady commitment, not short-lived effort. Speed versus growth. In the end, it's not about how fast you grow, it's about whether you're growing at all. Daily practice ensures that you are. It makes sure that even when life is unpredictable, you are still in motion, still learning, still improving, still becoming the kind of person who follows through. Achievement versus building. And that kind of person doesn't just achieve goals. They build a life that feels strong, clear, and purposeful. One day at a time, one practice at a time. That's the kind of growth that lasts. This audiobook delivers one unified message through 10 interconnected chapters. Transformation is not a dramatic event, but a daily practice. The accumulation of small disciplines, repeated without fanfare or recognition, creates the person you become. Showing up daily allows people to notice and trust you, building a reputation that opens doors. The power lies not in understanding these principles intellectually, but in implementing them practically. Each chapter reinforces that consistency trumps intensity, that character is built through repetition, and that the gap between who you are and who you want to be closes through daily commitments honored without negotiation. The audiobook challenges the modern addiction to instant gratification and quick fixes, offering instead a timeless truth. Lasting change requires patience, sustained effort, and unwavering commitment to simple daily practices that most people dismiss as too small to matter. Your future is being built right now, not by your intentions, hopes, or plans, but by what you're actually doing every single day. The question is not whether you can change. The question is whether you're willing to show up daily for the work that creates change. The choice is yours. The time is now. Start tiny, stay consistent, trust the process, the results will follow.